Hello everyone, Insightful Nomad here. In today's video, I want to show you what happened in the attack in Jerusalem, in which two Palestinian gunmen opened fire at a bus stop, killing 6 Israelis and injuring another 12. We're going to look a little bit at the footage and see what Prime Minister Netanyahu said, and then talk a little bit about the conclusion of the event, a type of event that we've seen many, many times in the past. So first, let's take a look here at the footage that we have. Not this. This is the Prime Minister, but this is one of the shootings or one of the cameras that, okay, we see a bunch of people driving. There's a bus stop there in the corner. Maybe you can hear a little bit of the music. And all right, it's like just, you know, road area. All right, I think that's the end of that footage. Nope, still firing. Jeez. Okay, so we hear the bullets. Those attackers were neutralized by people who were armed in the vicinity. So that was the other bullets probably that we heard. That's kind of like what ended the attack. There's another angle here that we can see. All right, there's a guy there who's, you know, in the circle. You see all of a sudden he comes up to where there's a bunch of people and he takes out his gun and he's starting to fire at random people. Security cam footage. And that's it. Man, but the previous one where you see just everything's normal and all of a sudden people are running, screaming because bullets are starting to be fired. Pretty tough situation to be in. I want to see now what Netanyahu said about the attack and then my conclusions.
אנחנו במלחמה, במלחמה עצימה נגד הטרור בכמה חזיתות. ראשית אני רוצה לשלוח תנחומים למשפחות הנרצחים, וכמובן איחולי החלמה לפצועים. כשאני אומר שאנחנו במלחמה עצימה בכמה חזיתות, יש לנו כמובן הצלחות אדירות נגד משטרי הטרור, נגד ארגוני הטרור, אבל המלחמה נמשכת גם ברצועת עזה, שבה נחריב את החמאס. כפי שהבטחנו ונשחרר את חטופינו, כל חטופינו. ולצערנו גם בירושלים. ביהודה ושומרון פעלנו בתקיפות רבה מאוד. השב"כ וצה"ל סיכלו מאות, וגם משטרת ישראל, סיכלו מאות פיגועים השנה. אבל לצערנו לא בבוקר הזה. אנחנו עכשיו במרדף, בכיתור של הכפרים שמהם באו המרצחים, ואנחנו נשיג את כל מי שסייע באדם, כל מי ששילח אותם, ואנחנו ננקוט בצעדים קשים עוד יותר. אני רוצה לומר בצורה הכי ברורה, הרציחות הללו, הפיגועים הללו, בכל הגזרות, הם לא מרפים את ידינו. הם רק מגדילים את הנחישות שלנו, להשלים את המשימות שלקחנו על עצמנו. גם בעזה, גם ביהודה ושומרון, בכל מקום. אנחנו נלחמים בטרור, במשטר הטרור של החות'ים, באיראן שמגבה את כולם, בעזה, בלבנון, בחיזבאללה, בכל הגזרות. אנחנו לא מרפים וגם לא נרפה. אנחנו נעצים את הפעולות שלנו, ואנחנו נשיג את כל המטרות שלנו.
All right, well, that's a speech I've seen from Netanyahu many times in the past. Okay, we had this terrible attack, but look, our government is very strong. We're going to fight the terrorists everywhere and anywhere, the Houthis, the Iranians, and so forth. And okay, that's him just saying whatever the defense minister, any prime minister has ever said, basically, in that situation. Now, regarding the attack, look, it reminds me a little bit of an attack that happened right next to where I used to live in Jaffa, where gunmen, what I would call terrorists, waited for people to get off the light rail in Tel Aviv and then just started shooting at them, and they murdered 7 people that way. And all throughout Israel's history, we have had an endless amount of such indiscriminate killing of civilians. So, what what is the issue? The problem is that now, after such an incident, what you will see very often in the Western media is basically the idea that kind of Israel had it coming, right? Because of the genocide in Gaza, as they call it, because of the occupation, because of whatever it is. Now it's a little easier for them to say that because there is a serious war going on in Gaza with a lot of casualties on the Palestinian side. But I can tell you that also on a regular, in times of not outright war, they will say this. And I came across someone on Instagram who I know, I won't say who um, basically came out and an Israeli who said, look, this is the result of the occupation, this is the result of the refugee camps, the Palestinian areas, and the Palestinian oppression, then they're going to resort to these type of attacks. And therefore, at the end of the day, it's kind of like our fault in Israel. And this is something that millions of people around the globe believe. Whenever they see something like this, it's what a lot of them said after October 7th, which was an attack like this multiplied by, I don't know, 100 or so. Um, and we see it a lot. And, I'm just here to say no, 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 no. All of that is BS. BS. Okay? You go back to the early 1929 Hebron riots. No IDF, no occupation, no settlements, no West Bank, Gaza, no Netanyahu, no right-wing government, no Israel. Israel wasn't even founded, the modern state yet. And you had mobs of people going out and murdering, massacring Jews who had been living in Hebron for thousands of years continuously, going and attacking them. You go throughout various places in the Middle East. You saw, for example, the Druze who were massacred in Syria by the Islamists. You see in Egypt the attacks on churches that have occurred quite a lot in recent years, the abduction of Coptic women and forcibly converting them to Islam. All of this type of thing that has happened so many times, so many times. Hebron riots in the 19th century, in the 1800s, Safed riots in the 1900s, in the Ottoman Empire here, Jaffa riots, 1921, 22. Like there's endless amount of cases where you look in the Middle East and in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict where you see these attacks against civilians, innocent civilians, the massacre, murder of them, where you cannot directly attach it to some type of victimhood. And yet it persists in people saying and claiming that again and again and again. I'm here to say no, 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 no. These people, they have an ideology regarding Israel. They reject the existence of Israel. They view all the Jews living here as colonizers, as settlers. They believe in Palestine from the river to the sea. And those are the people who go out and commit such attacks. All right? It's not oppression. You cannot say it's oppression. There was a wave of attacks in 2015. It was called the Intifada of the Knives. Why? Because you had Israeli citizens, people who are citizens of Israel. So they're not living under any type of IDF, whatever, presence like there is in the West Bank and so forth. Living in Israel, equal citizens, kids, 14, 13, 15, going out and stabbing their Jewish neighbors. So that's also oppression? How do you explain that? What? And also the thing is just this whole thing about, having checkpoints, IDF raids, arresting people in things like administrative detention, shootouts in refugee camps. Refugee camps, not exactly what they are, but okay, camps in Ramallah and places like that. All of that is to prevent and stop attacks like this from happening, that have been happening forever here in the state of Israel and before. It's there to stop that, right? That is not the result of those actions. Those actions are the result of that. That is the correct order of the cause and effect when it comes to Palestinian terrorism against civilians. And people in Europe are starting to understand this a little bit. They saw the attacks in the Bataclan, London Underground, Madrid Underground, driving a truck into a crowd and in Berlin, all these terror attacks, horrific terror attacks that we've seen in Europe, where what are you going to say? That also they're the victims of the occupation and so forth? It's a little bit more difficult. So then it's historical colonialism, and these are just people looking for a way to avoid what is the evident truth that should be that the people who commit these attacks are terrorists. They're out to murder and kill people in the name of promoting some type of ideology, which is the definition of terrorism, and it's not the result of oppression or something like that. Simply not. We have to get that nonsense out of our head, please. Thanks for watching Insightful Nomad. Like and subscribe. See you next time.